All right, it's Monday morning, March 6th at about 8:30. About to push off here from Nawiliwili Harbor on Kauai, head back to Oahu. Ala Wai Harbor, got a permanent slip over there, so gonna go claim that. We've got a nice sunny day. We've got light breezy conditions, anywhere from 5 to 17 knots, but westerly, so we should have a pretty nice downwind run all day. So we've got Andrew, first mate. We got Leilani, the puppy, Captain Jumbo, and then we're just waiting on one more crew. So got everything kind of packed up, ready to go, and just kind of waiting to push off here. So should be out on the water soon. All right, we got our third crew. Woo!
Thunderdome.
Let's do it. All right. Bye, Nawiliwili. Aloha, we'll see you next time. Not much wind right now. Forecast said it should pick up in about an hour, and it's supposed to be coming right from our stern, be running downwind, but right now it's just a light breeze coming right from the bow. So thinking once we get out of the wind shadow of Hawaii, once the wind picks up in an hour or so, should hopefully be running downwind a little bit. Just motor sailing right now. Beautiful day. Tons of fish out today. Chibi piles everywhere. Skipjack tuna. It seems like they've been following us the whole way. And saw a couple whales off the starboard side bow a little while ago. A couple spouts in the breach, maybe 300 yards away. And tons of birds, a few bird piles out there. And look, you can maybe see them jumping. The Shibi's right in front of us. Seems like they've been following us, so the water is just beautiful, deep blue. Nice and sunny today. Just waiting for the wind to pick up. We got the crew in the back there in the cockpit. downwind as predicted.
Yeah, happened eventually.
Finally.
Sailing.
Doing about 4.3. Nice. Oh, hey. Just trying to go. I don't know. What are you doing, silly? She's just confused. She doesn't know what's going on. Come over here.
Yeah.
Come here. Yeah. Good girl. All right, Leilani's driving now. She's 10 months old, her first inter-island trip. Pretty impressive.
Good job, Leilani. She's gonna be a pro. All right.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Hawaii to Oahu.
Woo. All right, we got full sails. Going pretty much downwind, a little bit of a southerly coming in. Should just build up the rest of the night and get a little stronger as we go. We're doing about 5 or so, 5 knots. And we have approximately 59 miles to the mouth of the channel on the Ala Wai. Fishing. Can't see Kauai really anymore. Beautiful. Yeah. Wait for it. Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah, it was a little green for a second there, maybe.
You stare at it long enough. Whoa. Oh, it's the moon. Sorry. Woo! Woo! All right, aloha, Ala Wai. Feels good to be back. So all I have left to do is just complete the last bit of paperwork to claim the permanent slip. Got that all started this morning, and I just have a buoy run to complete to show the vessel's seaworthiness for the office. Since we got in at about 7 a.m. yesterday morning, the office wasn't open for someone to witness us coming back down the channel. So that should be that. Got to get that done by the 16th, so I've got another 8 days, so it should be no problem. But it's just a little bit tight getting in and out of here in this slip. This row is pretty narrow, a lot of boats nearby, so it'd be nice to have an extra hand just to do that buoy run. So we're all tied off here at the Ala Wai. Boat's looking nice and clean. I got everything sprayed off, put away. Definitely a little more comfortable spot to have your boat. There's a lot more protection from the wind here and with the buildings and everything. So a little bit easier to sleep at night that way. We have a floating dock here as well, so you don't really have to take into account the change of the tides. But yeah, Sequel's back sitting pretty right in Honolulu here, right at the edge of Waikiki. So I'm looking forward to being back here. I'm really happy to be back and seeing my friends again, going out sailing more regularly and doing some more of those fun kind of long weekend trips. So all right. Hi, baby. So one other thing I wanted to talk about on this video was the autopilot setup we had for the boat.
apologize, it's a little bit windy and my voice is kind of hoarse. I was battling a cold the whole week before the trip, and then without a lot of rest on the trip over, you know, my voice just kind of went away. And you know, we do a lot of talking, telling stories and stuff during the trip to pass the time, so voice is a little hoarse, but bear with me. So the autopilot here on this boat is a pretty simple setup actually. It's the steering mechanism here on the wheel that will power steer the wheel for you. Basically the way that this works is there's a little motor right here, and this is attached to electric power, and then there's a little mount on the mast there. There's a groove in the back that you can maybe see this way that fits right in there, and then there are little brackets that mount this just to the wheel. So when I bought the boat it wasn't working, and it came with 2 of these actually. So I found a video on YouTube, and basically what you have to do is you pop this open here and it just pops on and off. And then down here in the where the motor is, there's a little turn wheel with notches that basically controls a belt that goes all the way through. So I popped it off, replaced the belts. One of them didn't have a belt at all. The other one, the belt was completely disintegrated. So that was a pretty easy fix. Just a few screws, pop it open, a few more screws, put the belt in, screw it back together, pop it back together, and mount it back onto the wheel. The next thing with that, some of these you can kind of see are cracked. So that's just from the sun degrading it over time. So I used some Flex Seal to glue this one back together, and there was a crack in one of the other ones that I reinforced with some Flex Seal. So that worked. And then this is the control unit here that's just mounted on, you know, the side of the cockpit. So it's pretty simple. You have your rudder power. So this, the further right you flip it, the more power it provides to the steering mechanism. So according to the manual, you want it set at the least amount of power that will still provide you with steering. That way you can conserve your power and not drain your batteries. So, and then 1 degree to port, 1 degree to starboard, 10 degrees to port, 10 degrees to starboard. Standby, that allows you to hand steer while this is all still on. And then there's a little clutch right here that you have to flip down in order for the autopilot to work. So if you really want to hand steer, you flip that up, put it on standby, and you're good to go. And then auto, obviously just the auto steering, it just saves your heading as your course, and then you can adjust it here. So this was the plug situation that I had to deal with, where this connection was pretty loose, and it came with this plug mount here, and if you can see, there's a little groove on one side, so that once this is completed, you should only be able to plug it in one way. When I was working on the connection and scrubbing the prongs for the plug to go into, I forgot which way I put it, and on the final step, after I tested both, made sure they worked, I plugged it in one more time opposite, and I fried out the original control unit that came with the boat. So I was lucky enough to find a couple on eBay, and I got one delivered in time to Kauai so that we had autopilot the whole way. So, but as you can see, we have kind of a temporary setup, just a lot of electrical tape here. So, you know, in the coming days, I'll take this off and get a more permanent situation for it to be mounted. So Andrew came over and we got a multimeter and we tested which one is positive and negative, and just to make sure 100% we plugged it in correctly before powering it on again. So that was really nice to have the autopilot. Definitely saves you a lot of energy and mental focus. So 100% recommend getting some form of autopilot on your boat. If I were able to choose, I would definitely go with a wind vane rather than an electrical, just because wind vane just runs off the wind and requires no electricity, so you don't have to drain out your battery banks. But during the day, the solar arch up top here provided plenty enough juice for this to function entirely, leave it on the whole time. Didn't have to start the engine to charge up the batteries or anything during the day. However, at night, we had to run the engine maybe 2 times for 15 to 20 minutes just to top it back off. and have enough juice to use the Autopilot. So this boat has 2 battery banks, so we always keep one saved for the engine and don't use that one. We'll use the house bank for everything else. And then when we need to start the engine up to charge up the house bank, we'll use that engine bank to start the engine. So yeah. Alright, so to kind of finish off the episode here, I just wanted to do a little bit of a recap about the trip. Kind of some of the things that led me to do this trip, the crew, things with the dog, projects that we did, etc. Some kind of lessons learned, all that stuff. So really what caused me to do this trip was I was on a temporary slip in Nawiliwili Harbor on Kauai, and I finally got an offer letter for a permanent slip for the boat in the Ala Wai Harbor on Oahu. So that's a really nice thing to have, because temporary slips you can stay up to 120 calendar days per year. So it worked out Nawiliwili where I could do 4 months at the end of 2022 and then 4 months at the beginning of 2023. So I could have stayed up to 8 months. And my feeling was that the wait list takes so long to clear at the Ala Wai that I was going to have to max out my time there and find somewhere else to put the boat even before I could sail it back here. However, I could have sailed back anytime after January 1st to the Ala Wai and done another temporary slip to wait. But in order to avoid having to move the boat again, I decided to try to max out my time on Kauai and spend as much time there as possible and kind of just enjoy the island and experience what it is to kind of live there on Kauai. So it's kind of a funny story, and it's part of the story, so I figured I might as well include it. But you know, I was having some problems with neighbors in the Nawiliwili Harbor. It's a small harbor, and so I finally, you know, spoke to the harbor master, and he acknowledged the problems, and I ended up moving slips over to a different dock just to kind of get some separation from the situation. So, and later that day, actually, after I first mentioned the issues, I found my offer letter in the mail. So I thought about it for a while, and I kind of contemplated. I really enjoyed living on Kauai. It's a really nice island. The people just seem to be nicer. It's a little bit more what you would expect when you visit Hawaii, with just a little more quiet and slow and kind of quaint, whereas Oahu and Honolulu is very much hustle and bustle, city, very busy, over 1 million people on the island at all times versus about 70,000 on Kauai. So, but it kind of comes with the trade-off too of convenience. It's a lot easier to get boat work done on Oahu. We have a West Marine here, a bunch of other hardware stores, whereas on Kauai there's a few smaller shops, but it's just kind of hard to find those necessary parts to do repairs or improvements, and you mostly have to just ship things over to the island to get work done. So and me personally, I have a lot more connections over here on Oahu as far as people in the boat world. We have the yacht club right over here, where they have tools you can use. I have friends in the harbor who have a bunch of experience doing projects and tools that I can borrow. So that's really nice to kind of take advantage of that while I'm here. So so the way it worked is I had 2 weeks from the date that I accepted the offer letter, which would have put me at March 2nd. But I went ahead and applied for a 2-week extension, so that gives me till the 16th to have everything completed. And leading up to that, since the 3rd of February, I waited for an entire month before a decent weather window came up. So once the weather window came up, we jumped on it. I got my butt into gear, got the boat all ready, cleaned, organized, and one of the final projects was getting the Autopilot working. So that was an experience. It turns out everything I needed to have it work on the boat was here already, and I got both of the steering mechanisms working. I got the control unit plugged in. However, the connection was loose on the control unit, so I took the plug mount off of the boat and I got it working, and at the final step I plugged it in backwards and ran a reverse current through the control unit and fried it. So that was a pretty boneheaded mistake, really stupid, something I won't hopefully ever do again. Luckily I found 2 replacement units on eBay, had one shipped over from Florida with 3-day shipping, so it made it there last Thursday and we departed on Sunday. So Andrew is an electrician by trade, so him and I kind of put our heads together and we got a multimeter, we looked at the connections and we got it wired right and kind of rigged it up for the trip. So that was a huge difference from the trip to Kauai from Oahu, where we didn't have autopilot, where one of us had to hand steer for I think that trip took 23 hours. So the trip on the way back here took 22 hours, and for about the first 5 hours we had to motor. There was a very, very light wind. The wind bang was kind of just spinning around, too light to really sail, and we were still kind of in the wind shadow of Kauai, so we got out of that, finally had enough wind to motor and put both sails up, went full sails for pretty much the whole trip, and did about 4.5 to 5.5 knots on average, I would say, the whole way. So another thing with that, it was a downwind run, which is great, but I don't have a mount on the mast to use the whisker pull to help the jib from flogging the whole time. So added that on my list. That's a good project to do, get that mounted, and so downwind sailing will be a lot easier. I'm super glad the autopilot worked, and now I'll have 2 functioning autopilots once the second one gets here in the mail, and then can kind of just get the plug situation set up for a more permanent fix, and that's a huge advantage to longer trips like this. So yeah, we sailed for the majority of the trip. We had a full moon, nice bright night, and really great, beautiful day, and had to motor in the last about 10 miles just because of the wind angle and everything else. So 22 hours total, pretty exhausting. One of the lessons I learned too was just to make sure and take your rest, because I'm kind of in the mindset of I need to constantly be checking things. What can we adjust? What can we do better? Make sure we're on course, all that stuff. So that's just one thing. Next time I'll make sure and take a good solid nap when I can. Leilani did great. It was her first trip on the boat. She was kind of confused and worried at first, but after a while she relaxed and just took a nap for most of the time, either right in front of the helm or on the big beanbag chair in the middle of the cockpit. So yeah, just want to say thanks to my crew for helping out and helping me sail back here, helping me keep an eye on the dog during the trip, and then also thanks to work, thanks to my boss and my co-workers for covering for me, letting me take a weekday off to get back here to Oahu, and also thanks to Mana, harbor master on Kauai. Thanks for all the aloha and working with me through some of those issues with the neighbors. Yeah, the other part about living on Kauai, it's just a little slower, but it was a good change. It was a nice break from the busyness of Oahu. Helped me kind of get back into a good routine as far as diet and exercise. So I want to give a shout out to my trainer, D-Bugs. Been working with him for about 4 months now. Going to work with him for another 2. So that's really helped me just kind of get back in a good routine as far as taking care of myself, focusing on the things that are important. And you know, during my time on Kauai, I lost about 13 pounds, which is great, and definitely all fat, because now I'm much stronger than I was before. So that's a really good feeling. Helps, you know, physically, mentally, everything else. And now that I have a couple more months to work with him on Oahu, it'll be good to get back in that good routine and keep that healthy eating and exercise routine up. Looking forward to, experiencing the island with the dog for the first time. So she was definitely pretty excited when we first got off the boat, and she got to walk around and sniff around and smell all the new smells and meet a bunch of new people. So she's gonna love it here. And then other than that, there's a bunch of fun trips that I have on my list that I want to do on Oahu. Waimea Bay, Makua, Makaha, all the west side anchorages are really great. Sandbar and Kaneohe Bay, I'd love to do that again. And then now being over here, we're a lot closer to Maui, Molokai, and Lanai. So don't have any set plans for those trips. There's definitely some work I want to get done on the boat before I start going hard into those trips again. But yeah, exciting things coming up. I'm getting settled back in over here, and it feels great. So thanks for watching, and like always, stay tuned for more, and like and subscribe.